Hello, everybody. Today we're going to talk about correlation. The correlation, or as it's usually described as R, is a measure of the strength and the direction of a linear relationship between two quantitative variables. Now, the correlation R is a value that is between -1 and 1. It doesn't go higher than 1, it doesn't go lower than -1, it's between those two numbers. It can include both -1 and 1. If the relationship is negative, then R is less than 0. And if the relationship is positive, then R is greater than 0. If R is equal to 1 or -1, then there's said to be a perfect linear relationship. In other words, all of the points will be exactly on a line, like this. Okay, if I could draw a straight line. If there's very little scatter from the linear form, then R is said to be close to 1 or -1. The more scatter from linear form, the closer it is to 0. So again, the tighter it is to a line, the closer it is to either 1 or -1. Example number 6, estimate the correlation form from the provided scatter plot. So in this first one we have here, there doesn't seem to be any sort of line forming, either positive or negative. So we can actually say that there's a lot of scatter going on here. So the correlation would have to be around 0. Now, again, these are just estimates. We're going to be able to find out what the correlation is in the next couple of units. So in the second one, it looks like we have it looks like that's like a negative kind of line going through this. It's still pretty spread out from the line, but because it is negative and it's because it's going to be closer to 0, I would say this is about -0.3. Okay. And the next one we have a positive relationship, and it's a little bit tighter to the line, and it's positive. So because it's tighter to the line, it's going to either be closer to 1 or -1, and because this is going up, it's going to be positive. So I would say this is pretty close to about 0.5. Okay, and the more examples that you'll do in the activity that comes after this, the better you'll get at being able to determine correlation. So in the next one, we have definitely a negative correlation going on here. It's much tighter to a line that we can drive through it, tighter than the other ones we've previously done. And because it's negative, I would say this is about -0.7. Now in the next one, we have a positive relationship. This is even tighter together towards a line. And because it's positive, I would even say that this is about 0.9. And the last one, it's very, very, very close to each other, but it's going negative. I would even go out on a limb here and say this is either 0.95, maybe even to about 0.99. Okay, it's not exactly -1 because they're not all on a line, but it's pretty close. So a correlation close to 1 or -1 doesn't necessarily mean that an association is linear. So, for example, the scatter plot on the right is clearly nonlinear. See how it kind of curves up? Yet the correlation is R is equal to 0.93, which means strong, very strong, and positive. The correlation alone does not provide any information about the form. To determine the form of an association, you have to look at the scatter plot. So again, if I just told you that R was equal to 0.93, you wouldn't know that it's still curved based on the correlation alone. While the correlation is a good way to measure the strength and direction of a linear relationship, it has limitations. Most importantly, we have to remember that correlation does not imply causation. And this is really important. I'll say this over and over and over again. This will be the answer to many homework questions. Correlation does not imply causation. So let's do another example. So example number 7, for the years 2000 to 2009, the correlation between a total revenue generated by skiing facilities in the United States and the number of people who died by becoming tangled in their bed sheets is R is equal to 0.97. And by the way, this is an actual example of real life data. Like I said earlier in the course, all of the examples provided are actually based on real life data. So the question saying, does the strong correlation between these two variables suggest that an increase in skiing revenue causes more people to die by becoming tangled in their bed sheets? So again, does selling more skiing stuff cause people to die by being tangled in their bed sheets? Now that's just a silly, silly question. But because there's a strong correlation, a lot of people would think so because 0.97 is incredibly strong. But knowing from logic, we would probably say probably not. I don't think these people going around selling ski equipment are also going around going, ha ha ha, let's tangle up these people in their bed sheets. So we can say that although there is a strong positive correlation between the two variables, between revenue from skiing and the number of deaths from tangling. Okay. There's likely a more plausible cause. There's a more likely cause. There. Oh, I need to say there. More likely cause. Now, pause the video for a moment and kind of think about what that cause could be. In the past, I've gotten some really good examples. I would say that it is likely that both of these variables are becoming large over time because of population growth. Because if you think about it, the population is growing, therefore more people are spending more money on skiing, and more money and more, unfortunately, are dying from becoming tangled. So that's what I would like to write here. I would say it is likely that both of these variables are increasing due to the population increasing. Now, if this was just for one season or 1 year, I've heard the great reason of winter being the cause of growth for both of them, but this is, again, over several years, a decade, in fact. Winter is also a really good explanation between the association, if it was only 1 year. Now we're done with notes today. I know this is incredibly short, but that's because I want to leave plenty of time for you guys to try to practice your correlation guessing skills. I always have a yearly list of who my top correlation guessers are, and I will be checking in on you guys regularly to see how high you've gotten for points wise. You can find this link in the Google Classroom. If you guys have any questions on the homework that comes afterwards, which is also in the Google Classrooms, of course, you guys can always come to the meet. Or, of course, you can always send me an email. I would be happy to answer any of your questions. Have a great day.